huge fan of Halloween. I love the tradition. I think it's really, really damn cool. Unfortunately for me, where I grew up, it isn't really celebrated, but I love making it special nonetheless. So I had a Halloween video last year. My Halloween video for this year came out in the summer, and you'll see that my summer videos will come out after Halloween this year. So I don't really have a dedicated Halloween video. In fact, the video we'll be releasing today has nothing to do with Halloween, but I think that's fine. I think it's a fun video. You'll see. But nonetheless, I thought I'd just do a small little Halloween hangout. This is something I usually do during the Halloween period anyway. I am a huge fan of horror. I love horror. I read it, I write it, I watch it. Maybe not, the cheap slasher style horror movies. I'm more of a psychological kind of guy. But usually during the night, during the Halloween time, I would just sit down and read some spooky stories. And so I thought I'd just, get out my old phone and we could just read a story from Reddit together. I was thinking of reading multiple stories, but then I thought that might be a little too much and a little too long. And also I was thinking of maybe cramming in my own stories, but that's way too awkward, so I'm not gonna do that. But I might do some more ASMR videos where I just read spooky stories, because I'm feeling very in theme. I got my Halloween shirt, I got my Halloween nails. And I also have a scented candle on, which is kind of just like a candy smell. I don't know if you can hear the crackling of the fire. I can. Yeah, something like that. And obviously I got some cinnamon and plum tea. It's still pretty hot, I think. Oh, you can drink it. Oh, it's really good. As well as over here, I got some Halloween M&Ms. I put them over there because the bag is really, really noisy. So, before I pressed the record button, I was already looking at the top rated stories on r/nosleep, which is probably my favorite subreddit. It's really high quality. I used to post on the subreddit as well. I might return to it very soon. But yeah, there was something that sprang into my eyes immediately. The second most rated story is I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% in over my head. Which just reminds me of the Lizzo song lyrics. I just took a DNA test. I'm 100% that bitch. So I thought that'd be fun to read. So obviously I haven't read this before. So sorry if I suck at reading for the first time. I'm not sure if I was good at that in school. I think I was good at it in English, but not in any of the other languages. So I should be fine. Okay. I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% in over my head. I did one of those at-home DNA testing well, I would want them behind bars, regardless of who it is. So I opted in, but never really considered the possibility that there'd be a match, and then there was. I was contacted by my local police department and notified that my DNA had been a partial match to a Jane Doe, and that they'd like my help in identifying her. That was honestly not what I was expecting. I was a match for a dead woman. The police explained to me that our DNA profiles indicated we may have been related, and that they wanted to know if I knew any relatives who had gone missing or hadn't been heard from in the past 5 years. 5 years? Yes, because they've determined her time of death was about 5 years ago, based on the state of her body when it was found. They've reason to believe it's a homicide, although they weren't able to tell me the cause of death. Apparently, due to the state of her remains, it was impossible to tell. Well, I didn't know of any family members who've gone missing, but I don't know my extended family all that well. I decided to get my mother involved, who does genealogy. She worked with the police, going through our family tree, but ultimately we couldn't find anyone. So, someone we didn't know we were related to, possibly. At this point, we decided to talk to the rest of my family, immediate and extended, to see if anyone else knew anything. Most of our family members thought it was pretty cool and wanted to see the mystery solved, though a few were angry at me for giving my DNA to law enforcement in the first place. The police showed us a sketch of what they think the woman would have looked like, and my mother and I agreed she had some resemblances to my Aunt Hilda, particularly in the strong brow and high cheekbones. The police decided to ask Aunt Linda, and her 2 children, Ethan and Bex, to submit DNA samples. They agreed. It took about 2 weeks to hear back from the police after their samples had been submitted. They probably weren't at the top priority list of the crime lab, but when they did get their results back, they asked Beck and Aunt Linda specifically to come down to the station. Bex actually asked me to come with her. She and I were really close growing up, basically best friends. We've lost touch over the years, but I still consider her a close friend. I agreed to go in with her, even though I wasn't sure why she wanted me there. When the police told us what they found, to say I was shocked was an understatement. The DNA from Jane Doe was an exact match to Beck's. Of course, my initial thought was that there had to have been some mistake. I asked what the likelihood is that DNA matched Beck's without actually coming from her. 1 in 5.4 billion, they said. They told us this was extremely perplexing, and that they had no explanation for the match. I asked Aunt Linda if Bex had any identical twin that nobody knew about. Maybe, but she shook her head. The police told us that identical twins don't actually have perfectly identical DNA anyway, so that couldn't explain the match. I was perturbed. I'm sure you can imagine why. Bex and Aunt Linda, though, were not. They laughed. They actually laughed when the police presented them with their evidence and shrugged it off. "Isn't that just the weirdest thing?" said Aunt Linda. They were both smiling and giggling the rest of the time, which clearly made the police uncomfortable. They told the police that they hoped Jane Doe could be identified one day, but that they were pretty sure they couldn't help any further, and then left the police station. I followed them after in a daze, confused both by what the police had told us and by Beck's and Aunt Linda's behavior. On the way home, I asked Bex if it truly didn't bother her. She said, "Come on, Veronica, there's obviously been some mistake. It's just not possible for my DNA to match exactly with a dead woman's. The cops screwed something up, and they'll probably figure it out in a few days and call us and apologize. Don't worry so much about it." I tried to take her advice. My mom even agreed with her, saying it had been some sort of error and that it would all get cleared up sooner or later. 3 days after we spoke to police, Bex, even and Aunt Linda vanished. Ooh. Spooky. I'm just gonna lubricate. My mom had gone over to their place to borrow some family photo albums from Aunt Linda to discover that the front door was unlocked and open. Nobody was inside. We tried to reach them on their cell phones, but were informed that the numbers had all been disconnected. Nothing was missing from the house. They didn't take any personal belongings. Their cars were in their garage. It was like they just vanished. And they didn't come back. We reported them missing, of course, and a few days later after that, the police asked my mom and me to come down to the station. That's when they revealed that they'd run Aunt Linda and Evan's DNA through their database and came up with 2 more exact matches. To a Jane and John Doe, whose bodies were found 50 miles of each other, and the original Jane Doe. All of them died about 5 years ago. Once is a mistake and maybe weird, freakish coincidence, but 3 times the police were baffled. They asked us for all the information we could give about Aunt's family. They specifically wanted to know what they were doing 5 years ago. All we could tell them is that they'd gone on a family vacation that year, but had been gone longer than they'd planned, but otherwise we had nothing useful. It's been a few months since then. The police have no answer for us, and we have no answer for them. I keep waiting for Bex to call or show up, or any of them, really, but it's like they vanished off the face of the earth. The worst part is that there's nothing I can do. I've done so much research to try and find something that could explain what's going on, but I can't come up with a theory that makes sense. Nothing grounded in reality anyway. All I wanted is to know if I'm part Irish, but instead I ended up discovering that my family isn't all that what it seems. That was really nice, and I think appropriately scary. You know, it's not one of those stories that just, jumps at you. It has, an appropriate amount of spooks. I like that a lot. Oh, that was a crack. See, this is the reason I don't do ASMR more. I will have to do it at night, and at night my bones just crack all the time. Okay, so I think that's about it. If you want to know, new videos are obviously coming. I have gotten a new camera. I'm still getting all the technicalities figured out, so if this video looks or sounds weird, don't worry. I'm working on it intensely this time. And also, there's gonna be a video about Genshin Impact releasing before this video, and a video about Ghost Runner also coming very soon, in addition to the 2 summer videos. I am also going to start soon with the development